Hey guys, welcome to another Anon Grinding video. Today we have a character review. We are doing the Asari Huntress. I got her to level 3, so these stats may be a little bit different for you, but she's a rare character, and at rank 3 she has around 480 health and 313 shields. I know a lot of you watch these character reviews and you may get annoyed by me reading through the skill tree, so if you want to avoid that, you just want to get straight to my opinion, skip to 3 minutes 50 in the video. So anyway, going through the skill tree, we're going to try and do this a little bit differently. I'm going to just highlight key points instead of reading every skill to you. We have our first ability, which is throw. Obviously this is a projectile that throws the enemy a distance. You've probably seen it if you played any adept characters in Mass Effect 3 or Andromeda so far. So throw, when you first get it, its starting force is 850, damage on collision 250, recharge time is 10 seconds. You can easily improve damage over time, etc. As you rank up at different ranks, you can do more damage, etc. and improve recharge time. Also, its rank 6s are double throw. Double throw allows you to throw 2 throws, so you can throw out 2 projectiles and it will kill 2 enemies. I recommend that if you have decided to level the skill tree in a way that doesn't look at doing like radius and stuff of the power. Also, you have swift detonation, which improves combo detonation and damage and recharge speed. Onto her middle ability, we have stealth grid. Haven't invested too highly in this just because it is broken at the moment, but I will run through how it's useful later on. Stealth grid is fairly useful. It turns you and your teammates invisible, and at rank 6 you can get evasive grid plus 30 movement speed, or you can get ambush grid, improve all damage types 40 to 50%, so that's power, weapon or melee. Moving on to lance, its base damage. I should explain what lance is. Lance basically is a projectile that damages enemies. Fairly straightforward, you can see the image there of its picture. It is a bigger bolt of energy that propels your enemy a little bit and just kind of stuns them, and does a fair bit of damage. So its base damage is 320, force is 400, impact radius of 1 and recharge 10 seconds at base level. Its rank 6s are knockout, plus 20% damage, plus 20% force. Knockouts, it knocks base enemies down within a 1.5 meter radius of where it's thrown if they are unshielded and unarmored enemies. Its other rank 6 is shield powered. Instead of having a recharge rate, it just takes away 45% of your shields when using lance. Moving on to her passives, offensive biotics. The rank 6s are biotic expert, improved damage for 3 seconds after using a power. That gives you plus 30% power and force. Or you can get biotic warrior at rank 6, 3 seconds after using powers, plus 15% weapon damage, plus 50% melee damage, plus 15% melee force. So offensive biotics obviously improves power damage, melee damage and weapon damage. Moving on to our final passive ability, we have barrier. So this is obviously like your health, etc. Going through this will improve health, shielding and stuff like that. And its rank 6s are active barrier, 10% shields when killing enemies with biotic powers. That's fairly useful if you use your powers a lot, like which you will using the Asari Huntress or any Asari character in general. And then you can also have saving barrier. When low health, so that's below 25% health, every 10 seconds you'll gain max shield. So let's move on to how it performs in game and my overall opinion of the character of the Asari Huntress. If you skip to 3 minutes 50, welcome to the other side. These are my opinions. So overall, the Asari Huntress is a solid character. There are a few things about her which will improve over time due to bugginess within the game, but we'll get into that when it comes to it. So overall, throw is a good ability. Stealth grid is currently broken, that's what I'm going to discuss. Lance is also a very effective ability. Offensive biotics and barrier also have some good passives within them. So let's talk about each ability in turn. Throw I found extremely useful, obviously because you can do the age-old classic where you use throw and then suddenly you spring an enemy across the map and they're on full health and they end up just falling off the map and you get the kill really easily. That's always satisfying. Or there's times when you use throw and you basically propel the enemy across the map and you have to run off them. I always find that quite satisfying. By the time you get there, they're still crouched on the floor and you're just able to spray bullets into them. Throw is an extremely useful ability. Personally, I upgraded its damage just because I find that when I like to use throw, I prefer to have it just affect one enemy. I like to be in situations where I'm not basically engaging a huge group of enemies, so I did its damage overall. I didn't invest in radius etc. because quite often I don't end up getting into situations where I need to engage a lot of enemies at the same time. So personally, when it gets to rank 6, I would personally put in swift detonation to improve combo and recharge speed, just because I don't really feel like having double throw is necessary, because sometimes that can be a bit annoying. You'll use double throw and there'll only be one enemy there and you feel like you've wasted it somehow. However, if you do invest in damage a lot but you do want to have the ability to be effective within groups, you can easily invest in damage with throw and then just stick on your rank 6 as double throw, so then that gives you the ability to do a high amount of damage but also take out 2 targets if the time arises. One thing that must be told, you probably know this, you're not an idiot, but I thought I'd throw it in here anyway. When using throw, I've said throw twice in the same sentence, it is very useful to pump an enemy that is shielded with a lot of bullets to get their shields down, because throw will not be fully effective if an enemy is shielded, just because it doesn't have the option to launch them across the map. It just does the damage. That's just a little FYI, you probably already know that. Moving on to Stealth Grid, and this is one of the most controversial ones. I'm not going to bitch about it too much because this is quite an upbeat channel. We don't really talk about the downfalls too much. We don't try and overplay it like other YouTubers. That's not a dig at anybody. But anyway, on to Stealth Grid. I haven't invested anything in it at the moment just because it's bugged, and you may know this. It was supposed to be fixed by 1.05, but basically if you're not the host of the game, the majority of the time you'll go to activate it and nothing will bloody happen. You'll end up just sitting there and you'll go invisible for like a second and then just pop out of it. Makes it extremely useless. However, I have used Stealth Grid occasionally on other characters, and I can tell you overall it's quite good. It's not a skill I'd necessarily invest in, just because it is one of those things that doesn't feel as necessary as Lance and Throw. But Stealth Grid is extremely useful when it comes to objectives like hack, or devices especially, because you can end up putting on the Stealth Grid, disable the device, and enemies won't attack you while you're doing that, so that's quite useful. Also, it's extremely good for when you're reviving your teammates. You can basically turn invisible, revive your teammate if they're surrounded by enemies without having any shots thrown at you, and it will also turn your teammate invisible, allowing them to get away quickly. So, but if you're watching this video by the time this has been fixed, those are my hypothesis and what I expect Stealth Grid will be useful for, due to the fact that I've used Stealth Grid on many other characters. Moving on to the RB, R1, whatever ability you want to call it, is Lance. Lance again is extremely useful. Personally, I find Throw more useful, even though it does less damage, just because you do have that satisfaction and the occasional chance of knocking an enemy off the map, like I do here, and do a hell of a lot of damage, and just feel like an absolute boss, and it's quite enjoyable to do that. But Lance again is a really nice ability. When combined with Throw, you end up basically being able to take out enemies quite easily. That's very fun. It's basically, and it's just so good with Throw. Throw and Lance put together are amazing. Personally, I would go for Knockout at rank 6, just because I feel like investing in shield power wouldn't be good for me, just because I am a very run and gun sort of person. I would end up running into trouble, and if I had it on shield powered, I think I would end up getting myself killed a lot more. Also, I don't find its recharge much of a problem. I'm going to get into recharge overall on these skills in a minute, but overall I don't think recharge is enough of a problem for me to want to have shield powered, so that I didn't have to have a recharge time and just took power out of my shields, if that makes sense to you. Also, one criticism I have for shield power is it takes 45% of your shields instead of having a recharge. I wish it wasn't a percentage, just because that means that there is no incentive to upgrade your shields to try and decompensate how much is taken away from shield powered. So I wish it was a number instead of a percentage. Moving on to our passives, offensive Bartic. Again, this is quite good. This is more general. I'd much rather invest skills early on in Throw and Lance. This is a mid-leveling review, just because these are your main damage doers. But offensive Bartics can be very useful if you want to improve stuff overall. You can improve power damage, weapon damage, melee damage, etc. And that is extremely useful. Personally, I would go for Bartic Warrior, just because that is my playstyle. I do like to rely on my guns a lot when playing in multiplayer games, so I would personally go for Bartic Warrior. 3 seconds after using powers, plus 15% weapon damage, plus 50% melee damage, plus 15% melee force, just because I am somebody who often relies on their weapons more than powers. Coming on to Barrier. Barrier, again, is your other passive. This improves shields, etc., stuff like that, health. And one really useful thing here, if you want to use it in conjunction with shield powered, is personally something I wouldn't do. You have Saving Barrier. When low on health, 25% or lower, full shields every 10 seconds are gained. This would be really good when used with shield powered. It means if you're in a really sticky situation, you're just behind cover and you were surrounded by enemies, every 10 seconds if you're on low health, you could basically throw out a lance twice every 10 seconds. That would be extremely useful, so that's something that would go well in conjunction with lance. Overall, I did enjoy the Huntress. I'm going to say that the recharge times on these skills are absolutely insane. It may not feel insane to you, but because I've done so many character reviews and I've spent so many times using very much soldier-like characters who don't have a lot of abilities that cool down quickly, they're very sluggish abilities like turrets, etc. I found the lance and throw to be a breath of fresh air that they recharge so quickly. Sometimes it took me by surprise just because I found that I wasn't really that engaged, but I thought, shit, I can use it now, it's been 10 seconds. So I did find that enjoyable. Recharge times were not a problem for me. Overall, the Asari Huntress is a very solid character. You want to put one weapon on her. I have my Hurricane on her here, but it's basically putting on whatever weapon you feel comfortable with, and a weapon that has no weight, just because you want low weight just to improve the recharge time on your skill.
One thing that should also be mentioned, if you've been watching the gameplay, you see that you do rack up quite a few combos with this setup with the Asari Huntress, especially when playing with other Asaris and Bartic characters. It is extremely nice to see combos. I don't feel combos are too effective in the game at the moment, just because of all these sort of like nerfing and patches we need. We don't need nerfs necessarily, we need buffs. That's what we need. We need good, solid buffs. But when you're playing with other adept characters or biotic skilled characters, I did find myself being able to trigger a lot more combos than I usually do when using this Huntress, so that was nice to see. Also, I reckon these combos will become a lot more effective once I have invested in overall combo damage, so maybe that's just due to how I leveled her.
Overall, she was an extremely effective character. I did enjoy using lance and throw. The one thing I am going to leave you on though is stealth grid at the moment for me does seem to stick out like a sore thumb. I'm not sure whether it's because it's not working at the moment, I haven't been readily able to test it, but at the moment it doesn't really seem to fit the character, and it makes me not want to recommend the Asari Huntress over other characters that use Bartic abilities, just because I think they have a much more effective skill set. Basically, stealth grid is good if you are a person who enjoys playing the objective, you like to get revives and you like to disable devices. It's good for that, you can turn invisible, etc. Or if you're the sort of person that gets into trouble and is easily able to pop your stealth grid with that sort of inclined, you can easily remember to pop it in time, then it's fine. If you get in trouble and you need to turn invisible, it's good for situations like that, or if you play the objective. At the moment for me, I can't really see a use for it. I find myself using lance and throw and rarely having to use the stealth grid, so the stealth grid for me is something that I don't see as being too effective, but I think that may be just because it is broken at the moment, and I will find more use for it in the future, especially because it does give you better power and weapon damage once you immediately pop out of stealth grid. So there is our review of the Asari Huntress. I've done a new format today. I didn't read through the skill trees as much, and I've done a lot more talking with gameplay in the background and a lot more of my opinions and how I would build the character and what's useful for what. I hope you've enjoyed the review. If this format hasn't worked for you, just please leave it in the comments. This channel is as much about me as it is you guys, just because I want to do something that's useful for you. I'm not doing it for the views, the money, etc. I want to be genuinely helpful. So like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and have a very nice day. Peace out.